Hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ. And today we're going to talk, of course, about Daggerheart. Some of the stealthy mechanics and design elements of Daggerheart, this fantasy tabletop role-playing game that leaves so many D&D isms on the player's side and yet has really embraced this narrative storytelling mixed success and failure element that we see so much in Powered by the Apocalypse and its various derivatives. And so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about death mechanics, maybe go into some adversaries and character creation. But the most important thing is that you guys are here. So if you're catching this later or joining us live, please sit back, put your feet up, and take part in our show as we talk about Daggerheart, the tabletop role-playing game. Well, hello there. Hello there. Hey, Spook, what's up? Nice and early. It's 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here in Ohio Valley here at the show. Daggerheart has really captured many people's attention, their imagination, and myself as well. You got to give credit where credit is due. And we in the community, we can be pretty critical about new things or people trying to do new things, especially when they have the biggest audience, some of the greatest revenue behind them and resources and such. And we go, nah, are they real role players? And I have to say, I gotta give a slow clap to Daggerheart. They did a good job. And I thought I would show to you some of the little stealthy things that this game has done that has placed our traditional tabletop role-playing 6 stats, rolling dice, buckets of dice for damage and things like that, D&D isms in front of the players, but the underlying framework is very narrative. And one of those that I'm very surprised, and I want to see in the future if players absorb this, is that they completely got rid of death as a byproduct of rolling random dice. Amazingly, and I'm surprised this isn't getting a lot of attention, and maybe this is just because of players haven't quite embraced it yet. But those of us that run games notice these things. You got to know them because you're reading the rules. And one of those things, those aspects in this game, is that they got rid of the classic death mechanic, death spiral. And this is going to go hand in hand with another psychological creation that Daggerheart has done and that some other games do. Instead of this being an attrition game where you have everything and you slowly start to whittle your way down as you go adventuring, which is classically how Dungeons and Dragons and yeah, Drew, yeah, this is the part that's gonna meet together. So, side note, there is a psychological tendency for us human beings to appreciate things that add together rather than subtract from. So in Dungeons and Dragons fashion, it's an attrition game. You start out with high hit points, spell slots. You start out basically being able to go Nova, and then as you adventure, you whittle your way down. And subconsciously, that doesn't feel good. Despite the fact we know that's how it works, right? I mean, you send soldiers out into the field in battle, and they're at their peak. They're physically active. They got all their equipment. It's very organized, and then things start to whittle down. And while as real as that may feel, it also doesn't feel good. It's very supernatural. It's very Dungeons and Dragonsy. There's monsters and ogres and ghosts and zombies and giant lizard things, things like that. Yeah, it's very fantasy. I just happened to begin with the idea of the hope versus fear. So yeah, people don't read the rules. So let's go with this death mechanic. So the death mechanic here is one in which when a player has run out of hit points, they make a choice. So there isn't a death spiral in this game, meaning like you don't roll random dice for you to randomly suffer damage to randomly die. Instead, when a PC marks their, right here under death, when a PC marks their last hit point, they must make a death move by choosing one of the following options. One of them is called Blaze of Glory, and yes, you can choose to die. Your character embraces death and goes out in a blaze of glory. Take one final action. It automatically critically succeeds with GM approval, and then you cross through the veil of death. Basically, you get to choose to die. You can also choose not to. And there's something stealthy in here. I don't think players will probably get it, but I think you'll understand it once we get into it. So one is go out in a blaze of glory. Basically, you get one last action, it automatically critically succeeds, and then you go away. Basically, it's a blaze of glory. It's the I hold off the army as the players escape, thou shalt not pass maneuver, and so on and so forth, right? The second choice is avoid death. Your character avoids death and faces the consequences. They temporarily drop unconscious, and then you work with the GM to describe how the situation worsens. While unconscious, your character can't move or act, and they can't be targeted by and attacked. So this is pretty important here. While unconscious, your character can't move or act, and they can't be targeted by an attack. Now, there's no real logic with that. But remember, we're using literary physics here, physics engine. We're using narrative physics engine, and which means that it applies like you would a screenplay or a novel or a television show or a movie. They return to consciousness when an ally clears one or more of their marked hit points, or when the party finishes a long rest. After your character falls unconscious, roll your hope die. If its value is equal to or less than your character's level, they gain a scar. Permanently cross out a hope slot and work with the GM to determine its lasting narrative impact and how, if possible, it can be restored. If you ever cross out your last hope slot, your character's journey ends. So characters can hold a begin play where you can store up to 6 hope. Remember, you roll two 12-sided dice and add them together. One is hope, the other is fear. Make sure that they are physically different, noticeably different. And when you roll hope, you can hold on to the hope. You don't have to use it, and you'll understand about holding on to the hope in a minute. But you can hold 6. So basically, you can avoid death 6 times, and you go unconscious. Now, mind you, for me, this part where they temporarily drop unconscious and can't be targeted by attack, you could replace that with like you're captured, the monster swallows you, you're lost downriver. Like it's the, you know what, I lost all my hit points, I'm just gonna bow out, right? Like my character got captured or eaten or taken away by the flying monster or something like that, until you can come back into the fray. That's basically it. It's there are other role-playing games that have a similar I give up maneuver or move or option instead of dying. And then there's the last one is risk it all. You roll your duality dice with like no mods. If the hope die is higher, your character stays on their feet and clears a number of hit points or stress equal to the value of the hope die. which is a D12. You can divide the hope die value between hit points and stress however you prefer. If the fear die is higher, your character crosses through the veil of death. If the duality dice show matching results, your character stays up and clears all hit points and stress. That's basically rolling doubles. If the duality dice show matching results, that's basically rolling doubles. So basically you can leave it up to chance and roll the dice. You got a 50-50 chance. Well, it's like 54 point something. Anyway, it's 55-45 chance of like standing back up and getting a second breath, or even getting a critical if you roll doubles. And it's like surprising, like you get that second surge. You can choose to bow out and go, nah, my character's down. I got bonked over the head with a rock and knocked out, and the orcs grabbed me. Yeah, oh well. Or you can go out in a blaze of glory, and it's like, I always wanted to play that druid creation, and I'm playing my rogue assassin. So guess what? My rogue assassin jumps from the rooftops, does their automatic critical on the back of the head of the monster. Guys, run out and get out of here! And then the whole thing, and then the monster turns around and throws you aside as you slam against the wall, and everyone's like, no! But yes. Sorry, let me go to your comments, and then I'll talk to you about the hope thing that you start to get. Yeah. Morning, Shy Squad. Yeah, no. SHP is like, no death spiral, blaze of glory. Yeah. The stealthy part of this creation is that your game master's going to know this exists. They're going to, like, their attention's going to be on this. The cool part about choosing one of those three, you either go out in a blaze of glory, you avoid death, or you risk it all, is that it doesn't matter how badly you want to beat your characters. I mean, the characters, not the players, the characters with all of your shenanigans as the game master. It doesn't matter. This is a safety valve for overcompensating and thinking your players, instead of having balanced encounters and worrying about if your players are gonna die, and oh no, I might have set this up a little too hard. It doesn't matter. The players get to decide if they're gonna die or not, which means you can beat their. Shh! Don't tell anybody. Shh. Okay, only you guys listen to this. You can beat their asses as much as you want in this game, and it's okay. They might get back up. Somebody might go out in the death, a blaze of glory or whatever. A player might go, you know what? I'm gonna let chance do it. 50-50. Roll my 2d12. Let's see, fear or hope. Which one is? Oh, fear. Damn, my character died. Oh well, right? Others might say, I don't want my character to die at all. I spent like 3 hours making this character. Why would I want that? So I'm just going to avoid death. Now, the trade-off on that is you might step out of the action for a while, but you go, it's the proverbial, all right, next game, we're going to do the heist breakout, right? We're going to break out of the prison or the chains that the bad guy has us, shackled in, or the vampire or cultist dungeon cells where they're going to sacrifice us the next game. Yeah, all that. Spook says, not sure how I feel about the lack of death spirals. I'm an expert on downwards, expert on it. I don't know if we want to be experts on downward spirals, but I can imagine that yourself, as many others, myself included, have had lots of world experience. What's the thing? I didn't go to school for this, but I sure did learn. I sure did learn in the hard knocks on the streets, right? Yeah. So let me fake an argument with you here, Spook. The classic Dungeons and Dragons spiral, death spiral, is when players know how to game the game, it doesn't reflect the fiction of what's going on. Instead, it just reflects the numerology, the rules of the game. So what I mean by that is you'll have players that are like, okay, I need to make a death roll save, but someone else has a way to stabilize my character, so don't bother healing my character. We're just going to yo-yo the game, right? Where the players go to 0 and they pop back up. They go to 0, they pop back up. They go to 0, they pop back up. And players know how to gamify that part. But what does that look like in the fiction? Like, if this was a novel or a book or your favorite anime or a movie or something, or a graphic novel, what does that look like? And this game is trying to embrace the Critical Role improv actors theater model. And so the world of Daggerheart reflects that part. It reflects the physics of telling stories with chapters and having upbeats and downbeats and downtime and then spotlighting the action. It's very much, if you were to run this game with no preparation, run it for like 2, 3, 4 hours and stop, and then translate that, basically have a script and translate that into a book or a novel or some kind of thing, it should have the beats in stories that we've seen, whether they're good or bad beats, whatever happens, the heroes fail at the end or they succeed or something in the middle. It should feel that way. And the classic Dungeons and Dragons rule set doesn't follow that model. They are trying to embrace this, where it feels bad to roll random dice and then your character dies, right? Now, mind you, if players that get mad at that have agreed to play in a game where that happens, but guess what? Nobody wants that to happen. We all are like, oh, I want death on the table. And people say that, but they don't really mean it. They say they want death on the table, but what they want is, then they massage the rules to mitigate loss. And this, like I said, I'm faking the argument. What this is saying is that let's get past all the fake numbers. Let's get past all the fiddly bits, because all the players are really trying to do is go, I want death on the table, and then maneuver the game so that death is removed from the game. And this one is just going, I'm letting you know how the sausage is made, right? Right. So Spook says, oh, I totally get you. I just could not help but make a tasteless joke. No, you're cool. Because I roll death saves in secret as a GM to add some urgency and weight to them. It's mixed success with the players, right? Now, if you told me that in the game and you said I roll it in secret, I'm like, all right, cool, let's go for it. I'm letting you know that there's a lot of players that are like, hell no, right? It's like rolling perception checks in secret, sounds good, but there's a lot of players that are like, hell no, I'm not doing that. And yes, this death mechanic is letting you know how the sausage is made. It's going, let's get past the bullshit and like, okay, I know you want death on the table and then are trying to have like 8 different characteristics on your character to avoid death. So how about you just decide whether you want to die or not? And let's be honest, the longer it takes for you to make a character, the less likely the players are going to want to have their character die. If your character fits on a 3x5 card, I'm looking at you, ICRPG and Shadow Dark and whatnot. What is it, Morkborg? If you could make up if it takes you longer to kill a character off than it does to make a character in the game, you could run through them like with a gauntlet or a funnel and just like, you play your character like you stole it, you drive it wet and put it away dry, right? So nobody cares. But if it takes like 2.5, 3 hours, 5 days to make your character because you want all your choices, and then it's very easy for that character to die just by rolling the dice, players are going to be very resistant to that. And guess what? You spend a lot of time making an adventure and designing a world. You want people in it. So it's just an excuse to keep the game going now mind you, there are consequences, because avoiding death says you decide that you don't die, but you must have a consequence for that, like losing an item or having an ability that's temporarily, you can't use it any longer, or The enemy gets stronger, or you suffer a scar, or something like that. Drew says, I am one of the players that hate secret rolls. Okay. It will not increase tension, but do the complete opposite. It will tell me the GM is arbitrary. Now, I personally I like the idea of like rolling the dice, but no one knows what the dice says yet. Like the dice cup idea, right? You put the dice in a dice cup, you roll it, no one sees what the dice are, and then you reveal it. So the player gets to roll the dice on their own. Basically, turn on and off the secrecy. But I don't know. I like that. Let's just put it this way. I agree to the parameters of the game I play in. I'm not that kind of person that's just like, well, the rules are different here. I'm like, no, if you agreed to play a game that has those rules in it, then accept those rules, right? But, when players start to get killed off in a lot of these D&D games, they're like, this game sucks. And I'm like, well, you decided to play a game with death in it. Drew says, suspense works better when followed the Hitchcock example, revealing the danger. Now, I prefer, I'm not really a secrets person, but yes, the Hitchcock way, if I can describe it a little bit here, is we, the viewer, basically the player, know what the danger is up front, but our characters don't know. And as the danger creeps closer, we're going, no, no, no. It's like the horror movie, right? Horror slasher movie. No, turn around. So we know the danger's coming. And then when it's sprung, we go, yep, yeah. And then you get to have some fun playing a character that's like, I don't know there's danger here, even though everyone, we know up above, right? And that's where the hope and fear comes in. When you roll the dice, when the game master gets the fear and the players get the hope, there's building tension as to the upbeat or downbeat and how that's used. One player may be like they spend it the moment they get it. Hope, hope, hope. Boom, I got hope. Great, I'm going to spend it on this. I get 2 more hope. I'm going to spend it on this. Another player might bank it. And knowing that they get captured, they got knocked out, they fell into the pit trap, they got surrounded by enemies, and it's like, you're not going to use any hope? Nope, I'm saving it up. I got 6 hope on me, and I'm saving it because I'm waiting for that right moment, right? And the characters, it keeps getting hit by consequence after consequence. And then when they go up against the big bad, now the tables turn. The character that saved all their hope might shine. The character that kept spending it is like, oh no, I'm in trouble. That kind of stuff. Shai says, is this a Cthulhu style approach where you make a team or pool of backup characters at the outset, knowing the lifespan of any one character is going to be too short to have much of a game? Daggerheart is not built around that. No. Daggerheart is very much main character vibes, right? You make a character, you're a big damn hero. Most beginning characters, you don't have a laundry list of a lot of fiddly bits. Instead, each character, because we can go to character creation in a minute, each character begins the game with very powerful abilities that are fueled by their hope and other things. You could spend stress on it, depends on what that ability is. But no, this isn't Knave, this isn't ICRPG, this isn't Shadow Dark, this isn't Morkborg. Those games are funnel/gauntlet style, where you're pretty much, you go into the game being like, I'm gonna make at least 2 or 3 backup characters. As a matter of fact, I've run games where it's like, hey everybody, make 5 levels of characters, and you get to split 5 levels. Talking about D&D, you get to split 5 levels any way you want. You can make 1 5th level character, you can make a 3rd level character with 2 1st level assistants, you can make 5 1st level characters. Like, we've done that before in games well in the past, and had some fun with it, like a little entourage. You're like, I'm gonna make 1 2nd level character and like 3 relatives that are all 1st level. You're like, cool, go. And then I'm gonna make a 5th level character. And yes, the 5th level character is far better, outperforms the 1st levels, but we would in world adjust interactions based on that. So the highest level character is probably like the more noble, powerful, the one that draws the most attention, while the first level characters are all like servants and bodyguards and manservants and valets and things like that. Playing classic Entourage. It's kind of cool. All right, so one thing that happens here with the death mechanic, talking about the death mechanic, is that it's a stealthy way for the players to engage in the game, and then when they lose all their hit points, they're like, oh no, what am I supposed to do? And then use it, because you as the game master don't have to tell them this exists yet. Let them know about this rule when it happens, so that the fear level, both capital F and lowercase f, starts to build. And then when a character gets stepped on by the Hydra and breathed on with the fire, then it's like, oh shit, did my character die? And then you go, well, actually you get a choice, right? And then you spring this on them. But this brings me to something else in the game, because today is success with fear. Anyway, so maybe I am wrong. The psychological nature of human beings is that, let me go to character creation. The psychological act of us human beings wanting to add instead of subtract, that adding makes us feel good. If I have one apple and I have a basket and I keep adding 3 or 4 or 5 apples to it, it feels better than having a basket full of apples and losing 1 or 2, or eating 1 or 2, or getting rid of 1 or 2. And what this game has done is allow players to create characters, but they get better by acquiring hope. So in the beginning of the game, I believe the standard is each character begins with 2 hope. And of course you can modify that based on your framework if you like to. Basically you can homebrew. But characters begin with like 2 hope, and you walk around and you roll some dice. And it feels good when you roll dice, even if you fail, that you get this little bit of hope. You get this little bit of like, failed, but maybe next time, right? There's hope in the future, and literally and figuratively. And so players have some capabilities, and you're like, this is my best ability, but maybe I'm better when I use it, when I've got the hope. And so the rising, falling tension is, you really can't go Nova, or you really don't even want to go Nova the very first time you enter into combat. If you've got the initiative, classic Dungeons and Dragons, I want to use my best, most powerful thing very first action. But in this game, your most powerful thing, you might not even be able to use it yet. Or you're like, I need 3 hope to use this. I've got 2. Let me roll some dice. Hack, slash, dodge, parry, boom, boom, boom. Okay, now I've got 5 hope from rolling the dice. Now I can go Nova. And it's like Voltron, right? It's the why don't the heroes combine together and pull the Voltron sword that makes the screen turn dark, and then they slash through it, and then stand with their back turned to the enemy, who splits in half and then explodes, right? Or maybe that's my own life. But anyway, why don't they do that first? Ultraman, why don't you use that first? Well, maybe it's because they live in a world of literary mechanics, where our heroes have ups and downs, and then they pull out their special feature and then they attack. So here this is part of character creation. We have the domains. There are 9 domains so far. And as I said before, the different ones, there's like Midnight, Sage, Arcana, and the very last line, like here's Midnight. The domain can access, the Midnight domain can be accessed, that's wrong, can be accessed by the Rogue and Sorcerer classes. The Sage domain can be accessed by the Druid and Ranger classes. You would think Sage would be Wizard, but it's the domain of the natural world. That's why. It's knowing how the natural world operates. Arcana domain can be accessed by the druid and sorcerer classes, and so on and so forth. Okay, and if we go to some of their capabilities, and here's the classes and the domains of your basic classes, and there's plenty of space to make new ones, new classes by combining your two domains. And they have domain cards, the level of the domain, the way you utilize it. And let's go into here we go. See, loadout and vault. There we go. And I don't know if you guys have heard this part. Yes, it is a segue. Your loadout is the set of acquired domain cards whose effects your PC can use during play. So under each domain, you have certain capabilities, and you get to have 5 of them. You can have up to 5 domain cards in your loadout at one time. Once you've acquired 6 or more domain cards, you must choose 5. Ooh, that felt funny. To keep in your loadout. I need something to drink. Sorry. The rest are considered to be in your vault. Vault cards are inactive and do not influence play. Essentially, you can only have 5 special abilities on hand at any one time. And at the start of a rest, before using downtime moves, you can freely move cards between your loadout and your vault. Doesn't exceed 5 card maximum. And so the idea is that you would have these cards in front of you. The cards are basically just a print of your capabilities, like feats or special abilities or something, and you only get 5 of them. So as you gain higher levels, you'll get 6, 7, 10 of these cards, but you can only have 5 on deck at any one time. Sure, does that sound kind of weird? Because, like, why can't my assassin use their stealth ability, 3 hours later? But it's to have some kind of limited control, and also it's like bounded. What's bounded creativity? So, in the next part of the adventure, you might not need that stealth ability because you're going up against the Hydra and going into the Hydra's lair, and you're like, I don't need this. We're probably going to be fighting on the front lines. So then you put that away, and then that also limits the capabilities of the player, the characters, right? So, despite the fact you've got 12 domain cards, you don't have 12 options. You can only have 5 options. So, here's a bard. Let's pick something random here. Wordsmith. So play the wordsmith if you want to use clever wordplay and captive words. Wordsmith is a subclass of the bard, and so you have something here like rousing speech. Once per long rest, you can give a heartfelt, inspiring speech. All allies within far range clear 2 stress, and that's a class ability, and it's not free, but it's like, once per long rest, you get to help your allies. Here's another one, Heart of a Poet. After you make an action roll to impress, persuade, or offend someone, you can spend a hope to add a d4 to the roll. And so a lot of these abilities are like, some are free, some give you a special ability, things like that. Druid's Hope feature. Here we go. Oh, that was weird. Evolution. Spend 3 hope to transform into a beast form without marking a stress. When you do, choose 1 trait to raise by +1 until you drop out of that beast form. So in order to take beast form, you have to spend 3 hope without marking stress. Otherwise, you have to spend stress on it. So as a druid, yes, you can wild shape, but it has a cost to it. And a lot of these capabilities for characters have costs for them. Beast form is a little complicated. It's wordy, but kind of wild. Druid subclassing. Warden of the Elements here. Here's another one. Mark a stress to channel one of the following elements until you take severe damage or until your next rest. And then you can channel some of the like earth, fire, earth, water, air, things like that. And then you go on to the other character classes where it's like it costs stress, it costs hope. It activates when someone else gains fear. GM gains fear, things like that. I want to find. Let's go to the Guardian. It's a little more complicated than that. Winged beasts, bunch of stuff here. Sorry. Tier 4. Here we go, Guardian. I'll go to your comments, and we'll get into it. I would agree. Spook says, as you read through them, I realize I've only seen the beta versions. Several of these sound like feats now rather than special attacks. Correct. Instead of the way characters are created, it's like they are a collection of feats. So instead of like character class options plus feats plus skills plus, they basically went to an all feat system, and there's not a lot of them. So they are impactful and powerful as they are, right? Instead of like +1 for this, plus a little extra of that. Like instead of 20 options, a beginning character, instead of like 20, they're going to get like 3 to 5. And you operate in that way. And then the way they're done is that the class feature is usually free or limited, and then your subclass features spike up in their cost. So you're going to have your minor, your standard, and then your maximum ability. And some are you're going to use all the time that have either they're free or have very limited cost or circumstances to use them. And then your other ones are going to be like, it costs 3 hope, it costs 5 stress, things like that. Gotta say something about the D&D-isms. Yeah, but it's not going to go away. I hear you there. Yeah. Sorry, go to the comment. Spook says, I like a lot of what I've seen in Daggerheart, but I am honestly mixed on the cards. I had a big 4E D&D feel. It's not a bad system, and it's great for new players, but I'm not sure if it has long-lasting appeal. The cards are just rules on cards. That's all it is. People think like the cards are, I don't know, like deck building or something like that. No. They're cards just like any other role-playing game. Like how Dungeons and Dragons has like spell cards, or like, hey, I've got the Ranger cards that gives me like all the abilities of the Rangers or the feats or something. That's what the cards are. The cards are basically they are there so you don't have to page flip. So as a player, you don't have to like, page 37, is that where that ability is? It's basically written on a card, and you take the card and put it in front of you. And then when you have a rest period, you flip the cards and change your vault around. Pick 5 more that you have in your vault because you've got 7 in there, and then you redistribute them, and then you have them in front of you. That's basically what it is. And then you can pass the card around. It's a physical descriptor without having to pass the book around the table. That's all it is. So here we have the Guardian. Their domains are made up of Valor and Blade. And then so Valor and Blade will have their specific capabilities. So 2 character classes could have Valor, but then they change the other part of it, which is Blade, or basically each character class has 2 of those domains. Your starting evasion is 9. That's basically your how do you dodge an attack, or basically how do other enemies attack you and you have an evasion score. That's basically how do you avoid the attack. Roll below your evasion, you don't get hit. This isn't armor class, so evasion is literally hit or miss. If you're hit, then we roll damage and see what damage threshold there is. And then starting hit points at 7, that's the Guardian. I think someone said if you max out all your options, your hit points don't go higher than 12 in this game. But something like that. So here we have the Guardian's Hope feature, and each class has like a Hope feature. And this one is spend 3 Hope to clear 2 armor slots. So armor is a resource, so it's not just damage mitigation. You spend your armor to reduce the damage thresholds from severe down to major, major down to minor. And so if you've got like 2 armor slots, you can spend 1 to get it from severe down to major. Or you might be able to spend 2 armor slots. It's severe to major, major to minor, and then now your armor is useless. And that's how it works. And then you repair it during your downtime. And of course, the Guardian, of course, is going to have a lot of armor slots, so they can take more hits. Even, blah, blah, blah. Unstoppable is an ability that they have. Under Unstoppable, remember, here's about the thresholds. When Unstoppable, once per long rest, you can become unstoppable. And here's an automatic ability. While unstoppable, you gain the following benefits. You reduce the severity of physical damage by 1 threshold. Severe to major, major to minor, or minor to none. You add the current value of the unstoppable die to your damage roll, which is begins at a D4. And you can't be restrained or vulnerable, which is a condition. So on and so forth. And that's for the Guardian. And then we have the Guardian subclasses. So the Guardian class itself has 2 abilities, and then you get to pick subclass. You get to pick a subclass with the Stalwart and the Vengeance, I believe. And so under Stalwart, there's 2 abilities. Again, not a lot. And then features, mastery features, and then there's Vengeance. And again, we've got foundation features, specialization features, and mastery features as you go up in levels, and you gain those. Right? So not a lot. It's like Act of Reprisal is like a feat. At Ease is a feat. Like here's a Vengeance. Gain an additional stress slot. So if characters have like, I don't know, if 6 is your standard stress, now you've got 7 slots of stress. And then things like that. You mark off stress for certain things, blah, blah, blah. Stress is like the other hit points in the game. So you will be monitoring your hit points, your stress, how much hope you have, and your armor slots. Ranger subclass, there's the Beastbound and the Wayfinder, so on and so forth. So it's kind of cool. Some of the abilities, like under the Wayfinder, let's see if I can put this. There we go. Some of them don't cost anything. It's just a thing that you can do. Others have a cost, like it's a limited ability, like once per rest, or once per scene, or once per adventure, or something. Some have hope costs, some have stress costs, things like that. Like for the Ranger, for the Wayfinder subclass, when you're traveling to a place you've previously visited or carry an object that has been at the location before, you can identify the shortest, most direct path to your destination. And a lot of the features here have these strange wording, because it's like, wait, why can't I just automatically do this thing? Instead, you have to engage in the world first. So like when you're traveling to a place you've previously visited, so you got to get there first, or you carry an object that has been at the location before, which means maybe you acquire an item that isn't there, but you gain it as like treasure. And even though it's not magical or anything like that, but it's special, then you can identify the shortest, most direct path to your destination. And then that way you have to engage in the world. And they've gone out of their way to put special abilities in there like that. Like here's one that's kind of cool. Mastery feature, Apex Predator. Before you make an attack roll against your focus, which is like your enemy. You can spend a hope. On a successful attack, you remove a fear from the GM's fear pool, and that's kind of cool. Like there's different abilities here which affect the different dials, I guess, of gameplay, and that one allows you to remove fear from the GM's fear pool, which means it's not just removing fear that can be used against you, but against other people as well. Ranger companions, things like that. Let's go to our enemies. I think it's these are the spells. Oh, that's the Wither Wild. Nope. There we go. Spells. Where's the monsters at? Come on. Give me my monsters. Or are these all the spells at the end of the book? Nope. Nope, it's right above that. Right above Witherwild. Sorry. Come on. There we go. All right. Tier 1 monsters. Let's see. Let's go to something simple. Tier 2s. Tier 2s. There we go. All right. All right. Petty Noble. The Red Ooze. I know you're in here. There we go. Skull. These are all the bad guys. Jagged Knife. Jagged Knife Lieutenant, everybody there. Or does it go up? Are there more Jagged Knives? Yeah, there's Jagged Knife Bandit. Let's go to a monster. There we go. All right, we'll stay right here. So, we go to your comments. The cards give it nonetheless a gamey feel. I can understand that people are turned off by them, which is weird because, Drew, because there are third-party people who make cards for other games that people buy. It's weird. Like, the game comes with cards. I guess the physical representation, the box set comes with cards. And I get you, because people are turned off by them. That's absolutely true. But then there's people who buy cards from other third-party people for the game that they want that doesn't have cards. It's weird. Nothing compares to the Black Sabers. You remember me bringing them up all the time. Yeah, I gotta have an example. Come on, why make me have to come up with brand new examples? Come on, you know the Black Sabers are gonna travel through the accursed desert, right? No, okay. All right, I'm being completely stupid here. All right, let's go with the Bladed Guard. Okay, Bladed Guard. So, monsters are based on tiers. There's tier 1 through tier 4. No need to explain that. Tier 1, lowest level of challenge. Tier 4, highest level of challenge. It's very generalized. Very, very generalized. Don't think these are balanced encounters at all. It's just a method of gameplay. So tier 1 is your average human beings. Tier 4 is we're plane hopping. You know, we're fighting on floating castles and, you know, going through different dimensions and things like that, whatever. All right, so we only, mind you, this is the SRD, so there's not a lot of background for these adversaries at all, even in the main book. But for here, an armored guard bearing a sword and shield painted in the settlement's colors. Okay, we get that. Motives and tactics. All of the enemies have the motives and tactics, and what's really cool about this is when in doubt, fall back to their motives and tactics. And all of the adversaries have slightly different motives and tactics. At least one of those motives or tactics is something that's out of the ordinary. So it's not all eat heroes. It might be something else. So here it is, like arrest, close gates, make it through the day, or pin down, right? And if you notice, nothing in here says kill the player characters. And so when the game master, when you're like, I don't know what this thing is doing, let's just roll initiative and fight till someone's down to 0 hit points. Maybe using, remember, we've got all that fear stacked up as game master. Maybe they're just trying to get through the day, right? or maybe they're trying to close the gates or arrest someone, like the player characters, or pin down the player characters or something. So, instead of using your fear to roll damage and hurt them, maybe you just want to pile on the rabbit and pin them down and arrest them. And so all of the adversaries are like that. Right here you notice there's no, let me say this. Personally, I think these stat blocks are a little too wordy for my taste. That's just me. But anyway, okay. So difficulty 12. All the enemies have a difficulty. You could call it a DC, whatever, a challenge, whatever it is, and there's a number listed to it. That's what you need to overcome whenever you're interacting with this thing. You want to charm them, fool them, hide from them, grapple with them, hit him in the throat. It's a 12. Instead of having fiddly bits like strength and dex, and that they were just like, guess what? Just give this person a base number and move on, which I like. Thresholds. Minor. This is what you have to overcome to do minor, major, and severe damage. So if you go past the difficulty of 12, and you could describe the difficulty like it says they have a shield, they probably have some armor on, they might be using their weapon to parry. You roll 12 or more, then you roll your damage, and if you roll less than 5, you do minor damage. If you roll over 5 but less than 9, you do major damage. If you roll over 9, you do severe. And that's where the thresholds come in. This person's got 5 hit points. They have 2 stress. Yes, you can stress someone out. Instead of doing hit point damage, you could stress them out and make them... so when you're doing negotiations, charisma, interactions, fear, seduction, illusions, you can stress them out. So this person has 5 hit points, but they only have a stress of 2. And then they get a +1 to attack. They have local knowledge of +3. They have a longsword that does melee damage, and it does a d6 +1 physical. So, let's see. If they strike with their weapon, they can never do severe damage to themselves because they have a threshold of 9. They have a shield wall, which is a passive ability, and then they have a detain action. Make an attack against a target within very close range. That's right up close, right? Like they can take one step and grab you. On a success, mark a stress to restrain the target until they break free with a successful attack, finesse roll or strength roll, right? So the guard has 2 stress. They can mark a stress to restrain you as the player. So I'm player as the character, not the player. Let's see. Jagged Knife Bandit. There's a glass snake. Dire wolf, giant scorpion. What's something really weird? Courtier. Construct. Here's the cave ogre. Sorry, I know you're hearing the clicking. Cave ogre to the right. Tier 1 solo monster. Now some creatures are called standard. There's some that are solos. There's like scouts. There's different categories of them. And if you use the encounter creation rules, you can pick so many types of these monsters. How many standard monsters there are, solos, leaders, things like that. Very 4th edition-y. And of course, this is a massive humanoid who sees all sapient life as food. Motives and tactics are bite off heads, okay, feast, rip limbs, stomp, or throw enemies. And it's kind of cool. All right. And then it's difficulty of 13. Thresholds are 8 and 15. It's got 8 hit points and a stress of 3. Hit points do not go up very high. I'm letting you know. The threshold levels, you do 1, 2, or 3 hit points. That's it. So describing doing damage in this game is kind of weird because the players are going to roll buckets of dice. But even if they bypass the 15 threshold, it doesn't matter how many dice they roll above 15, they'll just do 3 hit points. So you as the game master don't have to worry about, 287 hit points versus their 2 bodyguards. One has 87 and one has 42. You don't have to worry about that. It's either 1, 2, or 3 hit points. And then they have features like ramp up, which is passive. This one is definitely for the game master. You must spend a fear to spotlight the ogre. While spotlighted, they can make their standard attack against all targets within range. So it's okay. So the ogre can ramp up, which basically means the ogre's not really doing anything, right? Until the game master spends a fear, and then suddenly, when you spotlight the fear, they can make their standard attack against all targets within range. So it's like the slow-moving ogre with the big old club, and then once the ogre swings the club, everybody's got to duck heads, right? And then there's a bone breaker ability. The ogre's attacks deal direct damage. Direct damage means it bypasses thresholds. So direct damage means he can do 1d10 plus 2 physical damage, and I think it bypasses armor. I'm sorry. Direct damage bypasses armor, so you can't spend armor to block it. Hail of boulders. Let's see, he's got 3 stress. Mark of stress to pick up heavy objects and throw them at all targets in front of the ogre within far range. Ooh, that's all targets? Wow. I didn't even recognize that. Okay. And then Rampaging Fury. When the ogre marks 2 or more hit points, they can rampage. Move the ogre to a point within close range and deal 2d6 plus 3 direct physical damage to all targets in their path. So these are just things. I think it's a little too wordy for a lot of these. I wish there was like a standard number that you could go to for, like, it's got a difficulty of 13, which means it's got 13 hit points, and and also represents how much damage you can do. I wish it was more Numenera-esque, but that's just, that's me being annoying. But let me go to your comments here, and we can get you out of here. Spook says, my initial hang-up on the cards was that I assumed they were the actions you could do, like in 4E D&D. It limited a lot of creative actions. They have avoided that. My second issue was that it's a way to nickel and dime the customer. As long as they are included, I'm good with them. Well, not only that, you don't need to use, like, you could, if you get the Daggerheart book or the PDF, you don't have to use the cards at all. The cards are just a replacement for opening the book. So they're not like, you can only do this thing if you've got this card for this thing. Nah, it's not like that. It's reprinting the book. As a matter of fact, if I go to the back of this book, those would, like, all the capabilities for, let's go back here. Touchstones, come on. So all of these things, like, here we go, the teleport spell. They've got a card for it. That's what it is. So, I mean, you could photocopy or make a copy of PDF this or whatever, and or copy and paste it or something. It's the same thing. People are just like the cards are included, and I know people were just like, it's a cash grab, and I'm like, no, well, if you buy them, sure, they grabbed your cash, but you don't have to pay for them. Drew says, I think a decade ago I would have loved Daggerheart since I disliked D&D 5e and thought it was sad how many good ideas of 4e were dropped. But nowadays I prefer much more sleek systems. And we go through, what would you call those, seasons in gaming? Like, I've defaulted to a very rules light mindset recently. I'm trying to go to the end of the book. Let's see if there's anything at the end of the book. Did it show it? Like a character sheet or something? No, they don't show one. No. Oh, okay. Valor ability. Yeah, see all of this. Sorry, I'm sorry I stopped for a minute. Forceful push. So here we have, this is the back of the SRD, and this is if you have the Valor domain. So remember, every character class has 2 domains. These are all of the capabilities under each of the domains. So I just highlight Forceful Push, which is a level 1 Valor ability, and its recall cost is 0. And then make an attack with your primary weapon against a target, blah, blah, blah. Additionally, you can spend hope to make them temporarily vulnerable, and so on and so forth. And it goes up to Valor 9, I think it is. Did I just see that? Unbreakable? 10. Because that's because you can go up Unyielding Armor. And so if you're 10th level, you've got a 10th level 10 Valor ability, you can use these. And again, instead of the cards, they have this in the SRD, so it's free. I mean, they're not in card shape, but I mean, they're listed at the back of the SRD, so you can grab all these. Oops, let me go down one more. There it is, Valor domain, and these are all the abilities. And I'm sure they're in alphabetical order. So what's this? Splendor spells. So yeah, they did give them away for free. So nope, not a cash grab. So anyway, went all over the place with this Daggerheart thing, but I appreciate the design mechanism that they used for this game. I appreciate the fact that it is very. Let's get rid of this and put my old dumb head up here. So I appreciate the design elements that they use for this game in terms of trying to make it feel narrative. I didn't go through a lot of the adversaries and the monsters, but it does feel that way as well. For example, matter of fact, I'll just keep talking while I try to find this. Some of the monsters do feel like they were created to embrace the fear mechanic, the fear hope mechanic. Let's see if I can find this vampire here. Let's see. Can I do a search? Okay, there we go. Let's see if we can. There we go. All right, we're gonna share this out and then we'll get out of here. So, there we are. Let's close this out. So we have a head vampire, Hydra. Nope, we'll do the head vampire. Tier 3 lead. Oh, there we go. Standard vampire. Here we go. To the left. So tier 3. So tier 3's up there. Tier 3 for even a standard vampire is pretty high. An intelligent undead with blood-stained lips and a predator smile. And one of their abilities is Draining Bite. And make an attack against a target within melee range. Okay, so they've got to at least have their hands on you, right? Or at least be able to touch you within melee range. On a success, deal 5d4 physical damage. Don't really see 5d4 listed, but that's pretty high. A target who marks hit points from this attack loses a hope and must mark a stress. The vampire then clears a hit point, and the vampire only has 5 hit points. Well, only, that's maybe only is wrong. But if you see this, like, not only does it do you mark off hit points, if the vampire marks hit points off of you, which basically means he's got his teeth bitten into you, or whatever version of vampire you like to create, then you lose a hope, as you lose all hope against this monster, and must mark a stress. The vampire then clears a hit point by draining your blood and healing itself. And that's kind of cool. It's kind of fun to like have this thing where you're measuring, you're balancing like hit points and hope and stress, and you're monitoring these things. Now, for some players, that can get those fiddly bits might be weird, but for the most part, you're not going to get into double digits messing with that stuff. So you're not going to have double digit armor slots. You're not going to have double digit hit points, really. you're not going to have double-digit hope because you can only hold 6. You can only bank 6 of it, and even for stress. So you're like, I'm from 6 to 4, okay. And I think the stealthy nature of that is low points means it's easy to track, and it's also easy for your brain to go, uh-oh, I now know I'm low. I've had 6 before, now I'm down to 2. The vampire's going to take away all my hope. No wonder the vampire that grabs a person and drains their neck doesn't fight back. They need their allies to help them out, right? I don't know what a Vault Guardian Gowler is. Gaoler? Gowler? Gaoler? I don't know what that is. Oh well, whatever. All right. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. And I'm kind of with Drew here as well. In the sense of like, sometimes we go through periods of time and it's like, you're not interested in it because it's got like an old school feel, and you're like, I hated that that period of time. Something like, like in a modern context, like Shadow Dark is like, oh, it gives me the feels of the old school with the cleaned up rules. I like it. Or what is it? OSE is another one that's like people are back into OSE because it's like, yeah, I remember the olden days, but I also didn't like the olden days. But now that they organized and cleaned up the rules a little bit, you're like, yay, that feels much better. Spook says, I like that vampire and how it's straightforward without an insane stat block bloat. Yeah, hit point sponge quality. Yep. Hey, have a great one. Thanks for stopping by and giving the brilliance. And Drew, as always, is here. Absolutely critical, which we need that, in our lives. And, just to take a look at a lot of stuff. Yes, it's got to bounce later, folks. Same for everybody else. What the hell just happened here? What happened to my chat? Anyway, so again, just showing off little bits and chunks of Daggerheart here and going over them. If you guys have any other questions about the game, at least through the SRD, I can show that to you as well for tomorrow. And yeah, I like it. I'm actually a bit impressed by it, to be honest with you. And I wonder, yeah, happy fraction of eternity, happy hump fraction of eternity. Thank you so much. And I wonder a little bit how players are going to respond to the narrative nature of this game. I don't know. It's different. Just like me changing the background and the music and stuff and whatnot, and not coming to any particular thing that I want to settle on. I think we are the same way when it comes to these games, and I appreciate what they created. Everyone wants to know, is it going to defeat D&D? I don't think that's necessary. We don't walk around with restaurants going, I wonder if my favorite restaurant is going to defeat every other restaurant. If your favorite restaurant is some greasy spoon, it only needs to be good for you. And just embrace it that way. So guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. Everybody have a great day. I will see thee later tomorrow, where we start to go downhill and round out our look at Daggerheart. Peace and tranquility. Bye.